Admiral Vorrak of the Keth Dominion stood on the observation blister of the battle carrier Indefatigable Gaze and watched Earth turn beneath him like a blue-green marble streaked with careless white. His 4 forward eyes narrowed in satisfaction. The planet's orbital defenses were already ash. Their primitive fusion reactors had overloaded in perfect sequence, courtesy of the quantum virus his infiltration teams had delivered 6 months earlier. The humans had spent the last 41 days screaming across their networks, begging their governments for answers that would never come. Vorrak's mandibles clicked once, an expression his subordinates knew meant amusement. "Report," he said. Sub-Commander Lyra stepped forward, her carapace still gleaming from the spawning pits. "All major population centers are without power. Their militaries are operating on chemical batteries and steam. Primitive but stubborn. Estimated time until total societal collapse, 17 planetary rotations. After that, landing operations will meet only sporadic resistance." 17, Vorrak repeated, savoring the number. "They lasted longer than the Yarn Collective. Shorter than the Vordre. Acceptable." He turned from the viewport. "Prepare the announcement fleet. I want every surviving human receiver to carry my voice. They will hear the terms of surrender in their own languages. Then we begin the harvest. The Keth did not conquer for territory, they conquered for biomass, a garden world like Earth, teeming with 8 billion sapient organisms, each possessing a complex neural lattices, represented the single greatest harvest in Dominion history. The processing ships were already moving into polar orbits, their vast rendering bays yawning open like hungry mouths. Vorrak allowed himself a moment of pride. He had waited 3 cycles for a prize like this. Then the sky ripped open. It did not happen dramatically at first. A hairline fracture appeared in the starfield directly above the Indefatigable Gaze, a sliver of absolute black that reflected nothing. Vorrak's sensory pits registered a pressure drop that should have been impossible in hard vacuum. Alarms began to wail. Lyra's claws flew across her console. Admiral space-time shear detected at coordinates 0000 Mark 12. Energy signature unknown. "It's expanding." The fracture widened with a sound that was not a sound, more like the memory of a sound. A subharmonic chord that vibrated inside every Keth skull and made their exoskeletons itch. Through the tear poured light, but it was wrong light, violet-white, shot through with threads of gold that hurt to perceive directly. Something came through. It was not a ship. Ships had geometry. This thing had topology that changed while Vorrak watched. Edges folding into themselves, surfaces becoming volumes, volumes becoming absences. It was larger than his battle carrier and yet seemed to occupy no space at all. Sensor arrays overloaded and died trying to describe it. Then it spoke. Not with radio, not with sound. It spoke inside the language center of every mind aboard every ship in the fleet simultaneously. "We are the threshold. You have crossed IT." Vorrak clutched the railing as blood, thick amber, leaked from his mandibles. Around him, warriors collapsed, clutching their heads. Only the youngest, those whose neural lattices were not yet fully calcified, remained standing. Lyra was one of them. "Admiral," she whispered, voice trembling. It's not attacking." "It's waiting." Vorrak forced himself upright. "Open a channel, all frequencies, all protocols. I will speak to it." The thing answered before he could form the words. "You are the Keth Dominion. You have harvested 147 worlds. You believed this one would be the 148th. You were mistaken." Vorrak felt the attention of something ancient settle on him the way a mountain settles on an insect. "Great threshold," he said, surprising himself with the honorific. "We intended no trespass. We were told this volume of space was empty of high claims. The claim was made long before your species learned to count stars. The claimant slept. You have awakened them. The viewport filled with more tears now, hundreds, thousands, each vomiting impossible craft that looked grown rather than built, all curves and spirals and living light. They arranged themselves in a perfect sphere around the entire Keth fleet, with a coordination that spoke of a single mind distributed across millions of bodies. Vorrak's fleet numbered 4,312 vessels. The newcomers outnumbered them the way stars outnumbered planets. Lyra's voice was barely a croak. "Admiral, they're powering weapons. But the signatures, there are no weapons. They're singing. Vorrak saw it then. The newcomer ships were not charging particle lances or antimatter torps. They were harmonizing, layers of harmonic resonance building, weaving a chord that made reality itself resonate like crystal. He had time for one order. All ships, the chord completed. Every Keth vessel that possessed a quantum drive simply ceased to have ever existed. Not destroyed, erased from the timeline so cleanly that no debris, no radiation, no memory remained. Only the ships running on older, dumber fusion torches survived. Barely 300 frigates and scouts, including the indefatigable Gaze. The threshold spoke again, gently now. We do not wish to unmake more than necessary. Leave this volume. Never return. Vorrak stared at the empty space where his fleet had been. 4,000 ships, 3 million warriors, gone between one heartbeat and the next. He turned to Lyra. Plot a course for the nearest Dominion frontier, maximum speed, and delete all records of this system from navigation. She hesitated. Admiral, Earth is still down there. Defenseless. Vorrak looked back at the blue planet. From this distance, it still looked peaceful, unaware that it had been saved by something that made the Keth look like children playing with fire. Let them keep their illusions a little longer, he said quietly. We will need new ones of our own. As the remnants of the once invincible armada limped away, humanity's lights began flickering back to life one by one. Something else happened on Earth. In a small observatory in the Chilean Andes, Dr. Sofia Alvarez stared at her monitors in disbelief. The orbital decay signatures were reversing. Satellites that had been falling were rising again, nudged by forces that defied physics as she knew it. Radio telescopes across the planet recorded a burst of coherent gravity waves that spelled in perfect mathematical notation, a message in every human language at once. You were never alone. Sleep now. We are awake. Sophia sat down hard on the cold floor as astronomers around the world began shouting into phones, waking governments, waking religions, waking history itself. The sky had ripped open, and something had looked back with love. Part 1. The Long Silence, Earth, Pre-Contact. 60 years earlier, humanity had still been alone. The year was 2064, and the Fermi paradox had teeth. Every telescope, every SETI array, every amateur with a dish in their backyard had listened for a century and heard nothing but the patient whisper of hydrogen. Dr. Elias Kane, lead investigator for Project Hush, a black-budget listening post buried under the Greenland ice, believed the silence itself was the message. They're hiding, he told his grad students over bad coffee in the mess hall. Advanced civilizations don't broadcast. They go quiet. And they enforce the quiet. His students laughed. Kane did not. In 2069, Kane's team detected an anomaly, a narrow-band transmission from the direction of Lalande 21,185, that lasted 0.3 seconds and contained 3.2 petabytes of data. When decoded, it was a single image, a perfect circle against a black background, and a line of text in 14th century Latin, Quietudinis custode sumus. We are the guardians of silence. The transmission repeated exactly once, 12 years later, then never again. Kane spent the rest of his life trying to answer it. He died in 2091, still believing someone out there was keeping the galaxy's children from being noticed by its monsters. He was more right than he knew. Part 2, the awakening threshold space concurrent, inside the tear, inside what the threshold called simply home. Entities that had no names in any spoken tongue convened. They were old when the first stars learned to fuse helium. They had watched the Keth hatch from ammonia seas 4 billion years ago and had chosen not to interfere. They had watched humanity's ancestors nap flint and had chosen not to interfere. They had set the threshold. Any species that began stripping garden worlds of their sapient biomass would cross it. The Keth had done so 147 times. The threshold had warned them the first time. The Keth had not listened. Now the threshold acted. But one of the entities, an individual humans would later call the Archivist, felt something new. While the Keth fleet was unmade, the Archivist had brushed against 8 billion human minds and tasted something it had not encountered in 100 million years. Curiosity without greed. art for its own sake, laughter in the face of extinction. The archivist spoke to the assembly in harmonics that translated roughly as, "They are young, they are fragile, they are beautiful. Shall we remain hidden?" The debate lasted what humans would have called 3 weeks. In that time, the threshold repaired Earth's magnetosphere, restarted its fusion grids, and quietly removed every Keth infiltration device from the planet's crust. The assembly reached a decision that had not been made since the dawn of multicellular life. They would reveal themselves, but only a little. Part 3. The Emissary, Earth 2125. 60 years after the sky ripped open, children were born who dreamed in colors that had no names. Some of them grew up to be diplomats. Mara Singh was 28 when the second tear opened, this time directly above Lake Geneva, perfectly controlled, no larger than a city block. Out of it stepped a being that looked almost human, 2 arms, 2 legs, skin like starlight contained under flesh. Its eyes were galaxies. It asked to meet the Secretary General of the United Nations. It introduced itself as the emissary of the threshold, and spoke in every human language at once, perfectly accented. "We have watched you struggle upward from the mud," it said in the General Assembly Hall, voice gentle enough to make hardened soldiers weep. "We have kept the dark away from your cradle. The dark noticed anyway. We intervened." The emissary raised one hand, and the air filled with images, the Keth fleet, the erasure, the moment Earth was spared. "We will not rule you," it continued. "We will not guide you. We will only offer you a choice. You may remain inside the threshold forever, safe, silent, growing at your own pace, never to be harvested, never to harvest others. Or you may step beyond it. Join the galaxy as it truly is, brutal, beautiful, and loud. You will meet others who survived the way you have only just survived. Some will be friends, some will be worse than the Keth. You will have to decide what kind of species you wish to become." The emissary smiled, and it was the smile of something that had never needed to smile before but had learned how just for this moment. "We will wait. When you are ready, sing. We will hear you." Then it stepped backward into the tear, and the tear closed without a sound. Part 4. The Choice. Earth 2147 present. 22 years later, humanity still has not answered. There are factions. The quietists say we should accept permanent protection, let the threshold hide us forever. We have art, love, science. Why risk it all? The chorus wants to sing immediately. To leap into the galaxy with eyes open, allies and enemies alike. Most people just live. They raise children who dream in impossible colors. They make music that accidentally bends physics. They look up at night and wonder which stars are watching back. On the anniversary of the ripping, as it is simply called, millions gather on rooftops and beaches. Some light candles. Some launched silent fireworks. Some just hold each other. And every year, at the exact moment the sky first tore, a faint harmonic rings through every human mind on Earth. A patient, wordless question. Are you ready? Humanity has not answered the same way every time, not yet. But we're getting there. We always have been. The threshold waits. Neither impatient nor indifferent, simply certain. Because it knows something we are only beginning to remember. The universe was never empty. It was only sleeping. And now, thanks to the enemy who believed we were weeks away from defeat, it is awake, and so are we.